Do you have any idea?
Shut up, Ty! No one asked you, you fucking dummy jacket and beanie wearing gaming family fuckhell! Just wait what these next 3 years will do to you! So if you didn't get the implication, it's been a long while since I did a list revolving around my least favorite bosses. Obviously, I do not like it anymore for one reason or another, but the fact that it's my most viewed video as of now is, very unfortunate. Fucking YouTube algorithm. Eat my cock. With age comes new experiences, after all. There's only so long that I can do any of my countdowns that I can stand behind. Maybe this is a giant red flag for this list, but let's just focus on the now. So, boss battles. We all love ourselves a good boss fight, and we hate ourselves a bad boss fight. Guys, come on, it's a life thing. I don't know what you expected. Obviously, a good boss fight is fun, a good test of your abilities, maybe a little challenging even. A bad boss fight, or in this case a boss fight I don't like, can have a whole load of problems. Maybe it's too easy, maybe it's too hard, maybe it's too boring, or maybe it's a fucking mess. Whatever the case, this time things were a bit tricky to get together, so this list doesn't have a criteria that extends beyond I dislike this more than the other. It's best not to overcomplicate things. And depending on the boss fights I mention, I anticipate someone telling me that I shouldn't be surprised and that I'm supposed to hate these fights. Well, good news for you. This list is all about the fights I do hate. The fuck did I just say about overcomplicating things? Of course, what I just now said about overcomplicating things is about to bite me in the ass, because I have to really justify this specific spot. Okay, look, I know technicalities and cop-outs are just a load of sin, but it's good to live life on the edge after all. So, Battletoads. I know Battletoads, you know Battletoads, it's a video game that does video game things. Surprisingly enough, the bosses in the game are the least memorable parts of Battletoads for me. I don't know, sure, they're hard, but I'm not really anything shocking like the rest of the game is. Oh, but don't you worry, because my choice is really unorthodox. In my review of this game, I touched on this level called Rat Race. You have 3 sections of dodging insta-kill shooters and racing a rat to a bomb. If you destroy the bomb first, you progress. If you don't, you die instantly. It isn't quite a problem in the first section, maybe a problem in the second, but it's definitely an issue in the third. The rat gets faster and faster, to the point where in order to slow it down, you have to hit it towards a wall so it can go to the other direction. But sometimes you'll even hit it to where it falls ahead of the crevices of the girders. Yeah, good, that's not a load of hell. Now this sucks, don't get me wrong, but what if I told you that this is also a boss fight? Here's the thing, once you destroy the bomb, you have a very fine window to hit the rat and kill it. Doing so will end the level right off the bat, which is the exact same coding that goes into the rest of the bosses in the game. So, if the game is telling me that this is technically a boss fight, then fuck it, right? If the game itself is allowing me to interpret this in a different fashion, so why not count it as both a level and a boss fight? Though, to be fair, the fact that I'm making such a technicality is part of the reason why it's low on the list anyway. Look, it's fun to think and have some creative liberties every once in a while. When it comes to giving a good first impression, the first boss is practically a paramount feature. It's one thing for your gamers to turn away at around the middle of the game, but it's a different and more depressing ballpark entirely if you don't even make it past the first portion of the game due to something that the game fucks up on. Now, I try to get as much of a game as I can, but if you're anything like the antlion from Sonic 2 on Game Gear, you're dead on arrival. The fight is pretty simple, all things considered. You have to dodge incoming cannonballs that are aimed specifically at Antlion. Ignoring how stupid of a concept that is, and ignoring how this is just a fight that only plays itself out, it's so much easier to die than the game shows you. Let's see, the cannonballs come in at random speeds and only give you so much time to react. Down on the D-pad is a one-way ticket to the land of go fuck yourself, and you don't get any rings before this boss, so yeah, that's all really handy for the first challenge of the game. I remember failing a science quiz when I was really young. Does this mean I should have skin cancer? But all of these issues are amplified, no thanks to the game's goddamn camera. Screen crunches can eat my dick. Actually, dicks are too good for the fate of screen crunches. How about a cactus? or some drywall. Look, I know it's an old game, but if it's a shit aspect, then it's a shit aspect. Doesn't help that there are plenty of 2D games that came out years before and are just fine with the area of vision. Oh, but the Master System has a much better camera, so it's fine, right? Well, yeah, and fuck no. Yes, the area of vision is fantastic, but that just means the fight went from being too brutal to being too easy. Sure, you can easily dodge the cannonballs, but the fact that it's still the only way the antline can be damaged means that it's still a really boring endurance test. It just goes to show that one extreme can be just as bad as the opposite. Monsoon from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Didn't find it all that bad, to be honest. Sure, he can combo you to Kingdom Fuck and can make himself invulnerable, but parry to your heart's content and slaps me and P grenades on him and he's nowhere near as much of a hassle. If anything, I think Monsoon's one of the best fights in the game, especially since it's your first outing with that handy-dandy Ripper mode. However, none of that could even prepare me for the fight after. Sundowner, I find was a really disappointing boss fight. It's got some good setup too. A one-on-one, well, mostly one-on-one duel on top of a really tall and really rainy skyscraper? Wow, it's like Platinum tried to make this worse for me. Problem is that when he shields himself, the line where you have to separate the shields is really, really thin. And when you fuck that up, you'll be blasted away. Oh, but once you get that down in like 12 years, it's not that bad to cut the connectors. But sometimes the shields will get in the way and you'll still be blasted away. Oh, but once those shields are down, he has a second form and he's faster than a speeding cheetah, angrier than a bear away from its honey, and more pathetic than my sex life. What the hell happened? We went from a fuckingly annoying fight to a piss-easy conclusion. The thing is, you can actually inflict damage on Sundowner before he even gets to this phase, so it feels even more like a come-and-go moment depending on how much health he has left. And he summons more mooks too, which sounds like a problem if most of Metal Gear Rising's enemies aren't free health and river mode charges. Sure, the music's fantastic, and that last bit is pretty cool, but I'd prefer it if the shields were actually feasible to cut down and maybe Sundowner gets some health back in this next phase, and this would have been a fantastic fight. I knew I shouldn't have trusted that smile. Those are never ever good. Can I just say that Kid Icarus Uprising, despite the less than welcoming controls and a majority of its boss fights that were just standard, is a really nice video game? Part of what makes it such an appealing game is how fast-paced a lot of the combat is, as well as the very witty writing to boot. And hell, when the real villain shows his face, as well as another spearhead in an entirely separate army come together to take on a much bigger threat, it's a goddamn dream come true! And hey, one of the main guys that was helping you throughout this arc is actually a piece of shit! I cannot wait to see how all of this ends. My dick is on fire! Sure, Aurum Pyrrhon's fight's a simple one. You shoot shield generators, then well away to your heart's content. But one of my main gripes, though, is that it's another generator fight. Keep in mind, I do not like generator fights, as a lot of them are just over-glorified damage sponges. Oh no, they're dodging my attacks. Guess I'll just sit still until I'm dead. Oh man, my dad was right. I am worthless. But even as a generator fight, this one takes it a step further by throwing in an onslaught of attacks that will certainly keep you on your toes. Oh, but hang on, why is there a bounce pad in the middle of the terrain? Well, that is for the oh so goddamn fantastic ring attack, which dodging it can go fuck itself. You can be so close to that bounce pad that it will file a lawsuit, and you'll still get hit by the ring attack. Hell, not even the dialogue is that great. Sure, it spits out binary at the beginning, but the rest of the dialogue is just, hey, Aurum's bad, the world is fucked if we don't do anything about it, which we've only heard a shitload in the last 3 chapters. Sure, Pyrrhon actually gets rid of the Aurum, but this fight, and in fact this entire come-and-go sub-arc, can still go 0110011101100110011001100110011 itself! Ladies and gents, it's time to remind myself that I'm a countdown maker and pick from the unholy trinity of boss fights from No More Heroes 2. Bland-ass bank owner, 2-on-1 duel where they can revive each other, or a 3-phase fuckfest. Now, we can all make arguments about which one is inherently worse. Hell, I tried that myself. But when it comes down to it, new Destroyman boils my piss. I mean, I just consider Million Gunman to be a more bland fight than anything, and at least Jasper Bat Jr., it's more of a deteriorated hatred than anything. Well, yeah, my choice here really boils down to just onion, but not only is that the point of this list, but that also doesn't mean I don't have a reason to dislike new Destroyman. Oh, fuck no, there's plenty to work with. Let's start with the jankily platforming elephant in the room that taunts after every single combo. Which, by the way, is a fucking issue in a hack and slash considering how stalling by almost any means will get you fucked over. Yeah, it sucked playing as Shinobu up to this point and it sucks here too. Of course, being a 2-on-1 duel, one Destroyman will fight you hand to hand while the other one will take shots at you from across the map and even have a group attack that, if hit, will deal a fuckload of damage. Now, dealing with this is enough to put tumors on my penis, but what seals it is that, as mentioned earlier, they can revive each other. Sure, it's preventable in two ways, but they both suck. You can either go after one of them and risk losing track of him, or you can spend so much time waiting for him to swoop down, catch him, and you'll fuck off all over again. What really stings is that this could have been really fun. After all, we're dealing with someone that had a split personality that literally got split and is now back. But then we remember that Suda51 is one of the fuckest minds in the industry. This actually makes me pretty scared of No More Heroes 3. Oh, God. Now, I talked about good potential screwing itself over, but can we make something worse out of something that really had no potential to be great? Is that even a fucking wow, what narrative was I trying to make? Like I said, one extreme can be just as bad as the opposite. So, with that in mind, let's talk about Uncharted 1's only boss fight. What's your name again? You know what? Who actually cares? The game sure as hell doesn't care enough, but fine. His name is Navarro. There. I sometimes struggle to decide if the entirety of Chapter 22 is a boss fight, even though it is technically part of Navarro's battle, but fuck it. I made the technicality once on this list already, let's go for it again. Because it sucks. Despite being the absolute minimum for a cover system mechanic, we have to remember we're playing Uncharted 1. Which means that the enemy's weaponry is overpowered as fuck, will shoot the very terrain you cover behind in seconds, and will call in more guys to participate in the world's rainiest gunslinging orgy. But you know, how's the actual confrontation with Navarro? Really shit, actually. Whereas the first part of this fight drags like hell, the actual fight with Navarro is a 30-second fight that took me 5 minutes to complete on my first playthrough. It's mostly the same as the duck and cover combat from before, but Navarro has a shotgun that will kill the terrain even faster than his groupies, and will kill you in one shot. You're gonna lose yourself in the music the moment you're gonna let go of your hopes and dreams, and I bet your mother makes a shit spaghetti! What makes it worse is that once you do figure out how to reach him, we're butt-fucked with QuickTime events, which will only give you so much time to react before you're dead. And that's it! Navarro dies just like that, thanks to his own stupidity and Naughty Dog's abusive relationship with Uncharted 1's players. What a shit show. You know, it always hit me. When you have a foe that can make itself intangible to harm, why don't they abuse it? Well, okay, sure, we have stories, and they all gotta end sometime, but if this were real life, this probably wouldn't be the case. But the fact that this can happen, and most certainly can be abused, is why Castle Crashers' Ice King can suck a flaming metal cock. And not just him either, because Kirby Triple Deluxe's Pyrrhon could be the replacement of the flaming phallic apparatus. Let's just have these two bone each other. That's a terrible idea, do not. So because I don't want to repeat myself with two boss fights that are pretty goddamn similar, this is basically a 2 for the price of 1 entry. But which fight takes which spot? Well, let's work that out. While the Ice King's fight doesn't start off all that bad, you have to deal with ice physics, so good luck having some starting momentum. But once his health reaches low, he will play this fight to such an advantage on his end. He will summon icicles in such a way that they will never stop falling and you never stop moving, will teleport to another location just to laugh at you, then icicles, laughing, teleporting, icicles, laughing, teleporting, icicles. I've done this shitty song and dance already, don't you fucking. Pyrrhon, meanwhile, does the shitty tactic of hiding from you, only to pop its face on occasion throughout the entire fight. Oh, but a majority of its attacks can suck dick too. He'll either attempt to eat you, in which you'll have to waste even more time struggling to get out of his grips, do a fire spin attack that may as well give you no chance to attack back, and even place little rock bombs that, when set off, will leave a puddle of fire, so you have to jump over them. And anyone who has ever played a Kirby game will know that when going horizontally, air mobility sucks cocks. Hell, it even has moments that will hop onto the arena, do nothing, and then fuck off for another 12 years. Yeah, good talk, asshole. So what have I decided on? Look, they both suck for the fact that they'll be constantly hidden from your attacks, with leaving a narrow window of striking back. but Pyrrhon edges out slightly because it will do this shit throughout the entire fight. Ice King, meanwhile, has the terrain disadvantage, which, to be fair, sucks. Shit like this is why I can't masturbate.
It's too late for regrets. You've been in my power since the very beginning.
What are you, fucking stupid? If there's anything I really want to address from my old list, is that holy fuck that number 1 was a mistake. Let me tell you the answer without asking the question. No, I do not hate Kabuto anymore. Hell, I don't even dislike him. I'll fully admit that that old list was an excuse so I can portray my salt onto the world, and it shows. In fact, my original video was going to have a different fight that Kabuto had at the top, specifically the fight from Clash of Ninja Revolution 2. But Storm 3 Full Burst's fight really made me feel feelings that I do not want to involve myself with again. Looking back on it now, you know the rest, right? Here's the most exciting thing about this whole ordeal. I could have picked a lot of fights from the Clash of Ninja series because they have this special idea where the difficulty doesn't spike, rather forms an uphill cliff. They get hard as balls and stay that way until you're a little puddle of man. Asuma for his really annoyingly sounding attacks and the fact that you have to use a counter special to finish him, or even Deidara from the subsequent game that makes 4 Glory Link players look like amateurs. But at least with those fights, once you inflict some damage, that stays for the rest of the attempt. Kabuto, meanwhile, heals off your combo damage. This means you can't stall, nor can you pull off any ridiculous combos. You're going to have to do something if you don't want all that work to go to waste. And considering the AI in these late fights is brutal as hell, it's much easier said than done. What's worse is that even with Asuma, you have a move that can trap him, and with Deidara, you're playing as a more powerful version of Naruto. Here, you're playing with one of the most vanilla characters in the game, so you can't chase your way through this fight. And to top all of that off, you can't even kill him unless you land your special move, which, again, easier said than done. And you have a fight that tore me apart when I was a kid. Hell, even as a kid, I didn't think it was satisfying to beat. You know you fucked something up when even 11-year-old me knows that just because you overcome a challenge, sacrifices to your psyche can still be made. Wait, was that a metaphor to help teach me a lesson? Wow, that's totally not depressing at all. My number 1 is from Shadow the Colossus. Now look, I like this game more than I dislike it, but fuck, man! Some of these colossi you have to kill are easier said than done. That old video, in which we shall not name, had me talk about Basaran, for it being a glitchy and long-ass fight, and trust me, I still really hate it. Celosia is another boss I really despise, because it just loves to tackle you. But even looking past this shit, there's still one other fight that I really dislike. It's a fight that is a frustrating one to work around. You know what? I can't do this. I made Basaran my number 1 anyway. Where was this on my old list? Number 8? Oh, dear fucking Christ have mercy. Now look, I dislike the other 2 fights a lot, but god fuck, what happened here? If you didn't catch on, you have to lure the boss into the geyser so the water will flip the Colossus and then you hop on and kill it. Sounds simple? You can tell by looking at this footage, this shit doesn't work. Give Celosia and Hydra some credit. At least the methods to defeat them are pretty goddamn consistent. Apparently there's a specific area on Basaran that's affected by the geysers, but fuck me if there's a good way of figuring it out. Sure, you can run around in a circle to compensate for the geysers not working, but really, if I have to make a contingency plan for a boss's shit programming, you've done something wrong. What doesn't help either is the horse controls are jank as fuck. Sure, it's like that for the rest of the game, but here it's pretty not good because of how hard it is to see where you and or Basaran are. Oh, but Basaran isn't a defenseless little reptile because it's got long-range electricity blasts. Dude, fucking nice one. You really bamboozled me. Oh, but the hell doesn't end, because even if you are on the Colossus and ready to slay it, you can get knocked off just as easily as any other boss in the game, which means you have to deal with all of this shit all over again. Now, all of this is absolutely deplorable, but there's an overall point I want to make that really seals the deal with Basaran. We look at some fucked over boss fights and laugh our asses off because of how incompetent they can be. So, why can't I laugh at this? Let me put it this way. What's a fight we all think of when we think of glitchy fights? Silver the Hedgehog! Correct answer! It's a technical nightmare, but we laugh at it because, well, look at all this shit it can do. Not to mention it comes from an entire game that is glitched to hell and back. how are we supposed to look at a game like Shadow of the Colossus? Well, we all have our answers, but if I may, this is still a fucking video game. I like progression, but taking a boss fight that ends up being like the polar opposite of progression and sticking it into a game that I'm supposed to take seriously? Maybe in a narrative standpoint that works, but you can make me feel shit for killing a good boss. That applies to over half the fucking game. Sure, making me feel for a bad boss fight should be self-explanatory, but there are better ways of doing this. Maybe spending more time programming this boss rather than beating the drum of how lonely I'm supposed to be by your barren overworld. You know, just a thought.